Yo, thank you, Frumily. We're back with another recap of the show with no answers from. I'm your host with the most, Anthony, and we're picking right up where we left off last week with that WTF moment, the return of Sarah. We know the drama is going to be on 10, with Kenny finding Sarah hiding in the basement of Father Khatri's house. The last place we saw Sarah was in the finale of season 1 when she urged Boyd to enter the faraway tree after they went on a journey into the woods. Now, I messed up last week with the title. That episode was titled Tether, so thank you, Frumily, for coming to my rescue. This week's episode is titled This Way Gone. Now, This Way Gone is not the title of anything else that I could find. That's right. I've done some online research, but I couldn't find any other reference to anything with the same title. So, wow. Not sure what to do, but I know I have my Frumily, so if anyone has any ideas on the possible meanings for this one, please do me a favor and let me know what you find in the comments, and I'll be sure to shout you out in the next video. But first, do me a favor. If you're new here, please consider giving this channel a like and subscribe to keep up with our weekly From analyses and breakdowns, and enable notifications so you're able to watch these videos right after the episode airs. Now, back to From. This next episode takes a surprising detour at the beginning of the episode and gives us a flashback. It seems like we're seeing Kenny and his family sometime shortly after they first arrived in town. This is very interesting because we get to see Kenny's dad, Bing Qian, being given a tour of the clinic that we all know and loathe, and I gotta admit that this scene is pretty heartbreaking. When Bing Qian arrives here, he's initially under the assumption that his son and wife will all be staying there together with him in this new home. We learn that there was an incident the night before where Bing Qian gave them a scare. Now, you might remember that Bing Qian suffers from mental health issues, which is a big red flag for anyone in these horror-like situations. This whole show began with one of the people creature monsters looking like anybody's grandma, convincing an impressionable child that they were a well-intentioned adult and that she should open the window to let her in.
That was a lot.
This incident ended in the death of that little girl, along with her mother. Her father, Frank, was so distraught that he voluntarily accepted his punishment of death by sitting in a box structure in the center of town overnight without a talisman. I can only imagine the potential for these creatures to convince Bing Qian that they're well-intentioned and the risk he could be putting his wife and son in if the people creature monsters started talking to him for too long. Kenny struggles with putting his dad into this new living situation. I feel for him, for real. I'm one of those people that have had to put elderly loved ones into assisted living, nursing home situations, and it's not easy at all. Kenny steps out to get some air when Boyd shows up and offers some consolation about what's happening. They talk about the incident that happened the night before, and we learn that the monsters knocked at the door and began talking to Kenny's dad. Kenny's father thought his brothers were outside, and we learn that he pushed his wife to try to open the door to let them in. Now, this is super interesting. We all have had all sorts of theories about who the people creature monsters are and where they come from. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that we hear about them looking or sounding like someone familiar. I've seen theories online that the creatures are actually reanimated corpses or the skins of the people who have previously died, and this statement could be a clue to that. It could also be his mental health issues affecting his perception of the world and imagining he's seeing his brothers when he's actually seeing and talking to someone else. I have a theory that the monsters have some sort of telepathy that they use to seduce those who they talk to when they want to. If they actually do have some sort of telepathy, then that could factor in with his mental health issues and result in a situation that's tragic. I'm not sure which is true yet, but this could be a big clue into the background of those creatures. Back to From. We learn that it's at this time that Boyd also asks Kenny to be his deputy in town. The idea is that Boyd would want to have someone to watch his six in his sheriff duties, and it also serves as a dual purpose in giving Kenny something to focus on during this difficult circumstance. The flashback then ends, and we see Kenny and Boyd meeting up again, except this time it's about how Kenny found Sarah in Father Khatri's basement. Now, you might remember that Sarah is an extremely important character from season 1. Sarah is someone who was receiving communication from someone or someones outside the community, and they've been guiding her and giving her tasks for her to perform in order for everyone to go home. They spoke to her and they instructed her to kill Jade's friend Toby. Hold on. Now, I was looking back at this scene and I couldn't help but notice that Sarah did more than just stab Toby in the neck. No, she actually went in and gutted Toby in a way that's very similar to how the monsters gut people after they kill them. I know I'm making another little detour, but this could be important. A major plot point from season 1 was when Sarah was instructed to kill the Matthews boy, Ethan. Something I noticed is that the communication from those outside forces take a huge toll on Sarah, both mentally and physically. She seems to be in a lot of pain and agony in the scene with Father Khatri in the basement, and she even suffers a full-on seizure in the diner when she's instructed to kill Ethan. Another thing we've noticed is that it kind of looks like Sarah has those worms in her arm in the diner scene, similar to the worms that Martin passed to Boyd. Now, I'm not 100% sure that Sarah's worms are exactly the same as Boyd's and Martin's worms, as they seem to be slightly different. Sarah's arm kind of looks like her veins are moving to form the words rather than full-on worms, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, the episode then transitions to Julian Tabitha in the kitchen of Mrs. Liu's house, with Julie asking her mom if she would like some tea. Tabitha is too busy staring into space and not looking at anything to give her an answer. Julie suspects her mom is having visions again, and Tabitha is still reluctant to talk about what she's seeing. Tabitha insists that she needs to leave and go talk to her husband Jim, but she assures her daughter Julie that she's fine and asks Julie to keep an eye on Ethan. Now, as Tabitha leaves, Ethan comes downstairs, and at the same time, Jade walks in the house. And Jade has got to be my favorite character on this show. Like, his one-liners, his one-liners be having me in tears. He walks in and he goes, "Oh Christ, are you people living here now?" Hold on, wait. And Ethan and Julie just have this dumbfounded look on their face, like, the fuck he just say? and Ethan reminds him that their house just collapsed. And Jade just keeps going, and he follows up with another haymaker and goes, "At least you had one. It's not my fault you broke it." Like, Jade just don't give a f. And I love it. I do. Julie and Ethan have nothing at all. They got ate up, and since they have no comeback, they just ask Jade to take it easy. Jade just keeps it going, and he's like, "We finally got rid of those smelly hippies from Colony House, and now we have you people." Jade just deserves to be in the lunchroom Hall of Fame somewhere for these ribs, because all these lines are hitting. Julie and Ethan then take their L's and decide to just leave. They just decide to leave and go see Victor. We then switch to Boyd and Kenny finally making their way into the basement of Father Khatri's house, where Boyd and Sarah are reunited. And it's interesting to see this moment because Boyd is genuinely intrigued by Sarah's return. I say intrigued because he obviously didn't care enough to wonder where she was or go looking for her or anything, but here we are. Boyd asks Kenny to give them some privacy, and Kenny is all sorts of confused, but he listens and gives them the room. Sarah says she's glad that Boyd is okay. He doesn't return the sentiment, and he just lets Sarah know that he's got some questions. He asks her what happened to her, and Sarah claims that she followed right behind Boyd into the faraway tree, and she ended up here in the basement of Father Khatri's house. Boyd wants to know how Sarah knew that they should go into the tree, and she tells Boyd that a little boy dressed in white told her to go into the tree. She also said that Nathan was right and that they made this place angry, but they would be safe in the tree. Sarah also tells Boyd that the boy in white is not the same voice that she normally hears, telling her what to do and who to kill, and she thinks that the boy is trapped here just like they are.
Message!
Boyd finally says that he's glad that Sarah is back, but he's nervous about all the trouble that's going to come their way because of her return. Sarah seems at peace with her situation, and she tells Boyd that it was always going to end like this. Boyd says he needs to go talk with Kenny. Sarah also realizes that Boyd didn't tell Kenny that it was her fault that Kenny's dad, Bing Chan, was killed. Boyd heads upstairs and finds that Kenny wants answers. Boyd tries to calm Kenny down, telling him that Sarah is important. He tells Kenny that even Father Khatri felt that Sarah was important and confirmed that something or someone here was talking through her, which may be a clue to understanding their situation. Boyd then admits to Kenny that he brought Sarah with him when he went into the forest. Kenny isn't with the and he starts going off on how dangerous she is, and Boyd slips up and tells about how, when she killed those people, she thought it was for the right reason. And Kenny is all like, what you mean people? As far as Kenny knows right now, the only person Sarah killed was her brother Nathan, but, she was doing that while trying to kill Ethan. Boyd realizes this conversation is getting messy, and he fumbles his way through changing subjects. Kenny is still very concerned and says she belongs in the box, and Boyd tells Kenny nobody else is going in the box. The whole conversation deeply bothered Boyd to the point where even bringing up the box has him seriously agitated. Boyd steps outside for air and collapses after seeing the worms crawling under the skin of his arm. We then switch to Julie and Ethan arriving at Colony House, with Julie noticing Elgin on the porch before walking inside. Fatima sees Julie as she arrives, and they begin catching up on what's new. While talking, Fatima also asks Julie to be one of her bridesmaids for her upcoming wedding with Ellis. Julie accepts and says that she would be honored to be Fatima's bridesmaid. Julie also takes this opportunity to ask about the boy, Elgin, on the porch, and even volunteers to talk to him to help him with his situation and transition. Kind of to be the proxy for Elgin that Fatima was for her when she arrived. We then switch to Ethan making his way up to Victor's room. Now, what's interesting in this scene is that Victor is up here drawing. I take Victor's drawings very seriously because they seem to foreshadow a lot of things we've seen happen and a few things we haven't seen yet. Victor draws things so he can remember what he saw, and it looks like Victor is up here drawing some of the people monsters from the cave he was in with Tabitha. Ethan and Victor have a chilly reunion. Ethan asks if he can come in, and Victor is all like, I don't know, you gonna steal anything else? And I can tell you that Victor's childlike behavior just tickles me. Like, this is how I used to be with my friends as a kid when I was salty. You gonna steal anything else? Anyway, Victor eventually lets Ethan in the room, but he's clearly still salty at Ethan for helping Jade go through his stuff. Ethan mentions how his mom Tabitha told him that Victor helped her in the cave. Victor throws Tabitha a compliment, telling Ethan that she's a nice lady and he's lucky to have a mom like that. Ethan then starts asking for details about where they went and what Victor is drawing. Victor tells him he's drawing what he saw in the cave and tells Ethan he should leave because he's busy. Ethan gives Victor some markers he found in Mrs. Lou's storage closet. He apologizes for making Victor mad, and then he leaves. We then switch to Julie walking up to Elgin on the porch of Colony House. They make some quick introductions and they exchange pleasantries. Julie tells Elgin that she's available if Elgin needs someone to talk to, and that's when Ethan comes bursting out of the house talking about how he's ready to go home. We then switch to Boyd and Christy in the clinic after Boyd fainted earlier with Kenny. Boyd tells Christy about the spider bites he got in the forest, and she begins examining the bites when she notices the huge cut on Boyd's arm. This is that gash that Boyd got from Martin when they became blood brothers. Boyd tells Christy he's fine and he just got scratched by a tree branch. And for the life of me, I just don't understand why Boyd is keeping secrets like this right now. Him Tabitha, Victor, nobody likes to talk to each other, and it's low-key driving me nuts. Christy decides not to push the issue and just tells him to keep the wound clean. Boyd tells Christy again he's fine. He laughs a little bit and tries standing up before he goes right back down. It seems like Boyd is still suffering from side effects of the spider bites or the worms or something, but he's still not right. We then switch to Kenny and his mom, Tien, in the diner. They talk a bit about Boyd's condition, and then Kenny gets ready to head out. Before he leaves, his mom, Tien, asks him if he's spoken to Christy. Now, this one still hurts because for what was like 10 straight episodes, we saw Kenny shooting his shot. Christy let old boy know that she was engaged. Kenny knew that she was in a relationship before she arrived, but considering their inability to leave, Kenny decided to shoot them shots anyway, and Christy was finally about to give in to Kenny when the damn bus showed up at the beginning of the season. I still feel bad for Kenny. It really feels like Kenny is getting it worse than some others in this town. I'm gonna touch more on this later. And yeah, let me not go too far. I'm gonna touch more on this later. Kenny tells his mom, Tien, that he just wants Christy to be happy before noticing that the people from the bus are starting to clear out their belongings from the bus, and he suggests he should go help. We then switch to the bus driver, Bacta, sitting in the bar drinking alone when Jade comes storming in. Jade is looking for someplace quiet to think. Bacta starts confiding to Jade that Elgin warned her on the bus to turn around, and she didn't listen. Jade asked if Elgin warned her before or after Bacta saw the tree. Bacta tells him it was after, and Jade is all like, oh, well, then you were already screwed. Now, what's interesting to me is that this bus driver feels deeply responsible for their situation and tells Jade that those people got in her bus. I can't help but wonder if Bacta is also an armed forces vet, because I feel like this is the sort of sentiment someone in the military would have, but I don't have enough information yet. Jade keeps the one-liners going and asks if her pity party comes with music. Does it come with dinner sandwiches? And they were riding a bus, so their lives couldn't have been that good to begin with. Yo, I'm weak. Yo. Jade stands up to have a drink with Bacta, and she tells Jade that she wasn't even supposed to be driving that day. She took the job to pay her way through school, which she then finished, but kept the job for a few extra weeks to afford something nice to reward herself for her hard work. Jade tells her he sold his company right before they arrived, and apparently Misery likes company because they seem to bond a bit here. This backstory continues the trend of people experiencing significant life events right before arriving in town. The Matthews family suffered the death of their son Thomas, Father Kotry beat the hell out of an abusive dad, Kenny's dad was diagnosed with his mental health condition, and there's more. Keep this in the back burner for now because it might come up in the future. We finally switch back to Tabitha, who finally arrives at the clinic to visit Jim. Jim isn't there, and instead she finds Marielle rummaging through the clinic's medicine cabinet. She tells Tabitha that she's just helping to keep inventory and that Jim just left a little while ago. Tabitha finds Jim standing outside their old house. We then see Randall outside mouthing off at people unloading the bus. Vultures. Jim tells Tabitha that Christy's fiance was on the bus and is now in town. They also talk about how weird it was that the wires that Tabitha was investigating when digging that hole don't go anywhere, and that doesn't make sense. This is when Jim then says the realest thing he's ever said and gives us the strongest theory on their situation. What if this place is designed just to see how the people would react? What if this place is all just some fucked up experiment? Jim then tells Tabitha how he heard a voice on the radio at the end of season 1. Not only did he actually get in contact with someone and that person knew his name, he also said some sort of warning or threat about how Tabitha shouldn't be digging that hole in the basement. Tabitha asks him straight up, "You think someone's watching us?" Jim isn't sure if they're being watched. Tabitha then asks if anyone else heard the voice on the radio. But before Jim can answer, we switch to Boyd, who's in the bathroom washing up. He seems to be doing better than when we last saw him when... Oh, shit! Father Khatri. Father Khatri is here, and he's talking to Boyd, and Boyd immediately starts thinking that this can't be real. Father Khatri suggests they talk rather than think about what's real or not. Father Khatri asks Boyd, how will he tell Kenny about what Sarah did to Kenny's dad, Bing Chien? Boyd and Father Khatri debate about whether or not Boyd should even tell Kenny the truth about Sarah, especially since Boyd didn't tell Kenny when he took Sarah with him into the woods, and they kind of forged a friendship. Father Khatri urges Boyd not to tell Kenny anything about Sarah and instead focus on being a leader. Boyd tells him that he's not going to lie to Kenny. Father Khatri tells Boyd that he's the father that Kenny no longer has and warns him that broken people don't survive here. We then switch to Jim meeting up with Donna. Now, when we last saw Jim, Tabitha was asking him if anyone else heard the voice on the radio, and it seemed like she didn't really believe him. Jim asks Donna what they're going to do, as she was someone nearby who heard what was said on the radio. Donna asks him straight up, how fucking stupid are you? She confirms that she heard the voice and asks him what part of Jim thinks that's a good sign after they dropped a house on his head. She then tells Jim that they need to be careful considering all the things that happened that day. Like, how does he know that it wasn't one of the people creature monsters on the other end of the radio? Jim shuts up for a bit, but then asks what happened to the radio. And she tells him it's around back. We then switch to the living room with Randall beating the shit out of one of the people in Colony House. Apparently, this communal lifestyle of sharing each other's belongings doesn't work for Randall, and he lets the guy know that the more he fucks around, the more he's going to find out. Donna walks in and lets Randall know that they have a way of doing things here. Randall lets Donna know that there's more they're going to find out the more they keep fucking around. And then he storms off. We then finally switch to Kenny and Sarah in Father Khatri's basement. Kenny's interrogating Sarah and asks questions about how it is that Sarah saved Boyd's life, and also asked about the voices that Sarah hears in her head. Like, why would she agree to do what the voices were telling her to do, like kill a little boy? He wants Sarah to convince him that she doesn't deserve to go in the box. Sarah gives him a weird look and lets Kenny know that there's more to this story. We then switch to Fatima and Donna in Colony House. These two are discussing how they can handle the Randall situation, and Donna has her mind made up. Donna grabs an axe and swings it at Randall's direction so he knows that she means business, and lets Randall know that he can fuck around and find out too. She tells Randall to get the f out. She then proceeds to escort Randall to his new home, the bus. Randall enters the bus and sees the blood smears from the elderly couple that ran into Smiley in the previous episodes. Donna gives Randall a talisman, some brief instructions on how to use it, and lets him know he's no longer welcome in Colony House. Randall has to let it sink in that he's now living on the bus. We then switch to Boyd and Tilly. Tilly is the name of the older woman that was dancing in the rain in episode 1. She introduces herself and lets Boyd know that Kenny went into the clinic. We see Kenny in the basement staring at the bloodstain left when his father was killed. Kenny's mood is different this time. He starts monologuing to Boyd about how his mother cries every night since his father died. He confronts Boyd about how Boyd knew what Sarah did. Kenny then insists that Sarah go into the box. Boyd tries to reason with him, but Kenny isn't hearing it. That's when Kenny drops his deputy badge on the floor and tells Boyd to watch his own f***ing six. And the episode ends, and man, this show just keeps the emotional drama going on 10. What is going to happen to Kenny now? Are we seeing Kenny's supervillain origin right here? What are they going to do with Sarah? We didn't get very many answers in this episode, but they still have me at the edge of my seat. Now, next week, I'm going to have something special for all of you at the end of the episode 5 breakdown that I think you'll want to see. I'm going to keep it a surprise for now, but I'm letting you know that I'm going to have something special for all of you at the end of next week's breakdown. But hey, guys, that's all I have for this one. Everyone, do me a favor. If you like this breakdown and you want to see more, please, 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 please hit that like button in the corner. It does so much to help me grow and to just let me know that you like what I'm doing. But, you know, YouTube still uses it in 2023 to help channels and all that. This is going to help me do more videos like this more often. And consider subscribing before you move on to your next video. So this way you could get initiated. You could join us every week. You could be one of the peoples and we break down and discuss each episode. Otherwise, I'm going to have to check you guys later. Peace.